college. I went to graduate school. I went to all this stuff. And I said, you know what? Maybe I'll try selling. And I met this gal. And she said, I got to say this really quick. She said she had a cousin who was actually a fresh and wanted to be in acting. He was working at waiting tables and working at phone rooms for 20 years. He was 42 years old, and just like a lot of us folks in LA here have a dream, and he kept that dream alive. And she says he works at this place selling pens, and he makes $5,000. They make $5,000 a week there. Now understand, I wore a three-piece suit. I worked on Park Avenue when I worked in Manhattan, and I was taking home $410 a week.
Damn! So you were like 5,000. I want to do that.
So I'll never forget.
So cool.
I walked in there, and there was a line in the hallway. It was the 7th floor of a building on Wilshire Boulevard. The line was 200 people deep, and I'm going like, "Hey, dude, this is ridiculous." I had my nose up in there. I go, "I'm a professional. What am I doing here?" But my girlfriend said to go.
Yeah.
So I was, you listen to girls. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, you're supposed to. All you guys listening, you should know. Listen to the girl.
Especially she was gorgeous. So, okay, Gar, stop. You're supposed to be a spiritualist here.
So then you went down there.
So I went there. I swear I remember it right in front of you. Remember, I'm an eidotic. Remember, I could see it in front of me. I walked through the door, and there's this guy, Elvis. I swear I see him right now. He's standing up on a chair, Latino guy, standing up on his chair, and he's projecting out to the world. Yeah. And I go, I remember Crystal. Crystal was she beautiful blonde. She was the manager. And I walked over and I says, hello, my name is Gar Michaels. And she says, can you please repeat that? You don't talk like that.
Yeah, you're like, oh,
you gotta
quiet.
Be assertive. And I said, what is he doing over there? She says, oh, that's Elvis. He's the top writer here. He makes $5,000 a week. I went, what?
Okay.
So what they were doing is selling pens over the phone. And that started my career. I did it. They gave me a phone. They gave me a phone book. They said, here, sit there for an hour. No training, no nothing.
Right.
After an hour, I completely bombed out. After 3 days, they says, I'm sorry. We're moving you. Oh, no, we're giving you a promotion. We're moving you to the night shift. I go, the night shift? What about you do on night shift? Selling pens. He says, you could sell farmers and restaurants.
Yeah.
So I did that for 2 days. I left, and I found a place called Reseda, California. I met a kid, a fast-talking Italian kid named Johnny. He drove a old black Corvette, and he took. I remember, I'm 30 years old at the time. You understand? He's 21, greasy as they come. I can say that because Italians and Jews, we all get along.
Yeah. I got some Italian in me. It's okay.
I'm sorry,
we did talk with our hands though. I just realized that the other day. Somebody was like,
"We all talk with our hands."
Italian in me? I'm like, I do, because when I'm talking.
So he said he liked me. He took it up because everybody else there was 16 years old and just got out of a drug rehabilitation place or something. And he took me under his wing. And this guy was a genius. You think Einstein was a genius with theory of relativity? This guy, Johnny, was a genius at communicating. He could take a phone book of anywhere in the country. I swear, I remember. He talked to some guy in New Orleans. He says, hey, let's talk to insurance agents. He talks to this guy in New Orleans, and he sounded just like a guy in New Orleans.
Wow. And so that's a good... So he would, depending on which city he would call, he would do that accent?
Yeah.
That's really smart. I like that.
It's called relate.
Yeah.
And I learned that from him very early on.
Relate to people.
And then he would take the phone and he would see what the closest bar is. I'm just giving a little hint of what happened. What this guy was making so much. And he'd say, hey, Irving, you ever been to Ben's Tavern up the street? And the guy go, well, yeah, I was just there a couple weeks ago. I chugged down some brewskis. And you go, oh yeah, I was there. And then bingo, the key for selling, the key for making millions, you have to have a relationship first.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what. It could be cell phones, it could be microphones, it could be elephants, it could be horses, it could be chocolates or wheels. It doesn't matter. You have to have the relationship. And I learned that from him. That's where I started. And then within 9 months, I was the top sales guy, telemarketer.
Yeah.
I was making $3,000 a week.
Wow.
Within 9 months. And I got greedy. I said, you know something? I think I'm going to ask them for more. So they ended up making me a manager in charge of. They wanted to put 300 people on the phones. They saw something in me. Yeah. So they did that. This is
really like the Wolf of Wall Street. This is so cool.
And I didn't know from nothing. I had the girlfriend, and she's saying, "Yeah, go for it." And she's from the streets also of the Bronx. And so I was enjoying it. I was loving it. In fact, I was standing up on chairs. I was closing deals with people.
Really? Oh my God, that sounds so cool.
I was loving, and I had training every day. If a person didn't show up for training, they wouldn't work that day. Yeah. I was a mother. effer at
Yeah.
that time. Now I'm like Mr. Mello. You know? And we did that, and we were doing so much. I swear I remember it, like when we would finish the shift, I would go into, the fellow's name was, can I say the name, producer? Can I say the name? Okay, Cecil.
Yeah.
He was a cowboy from out in what's it called, Acton, out in cowboy country, and he'd sit there. I remember he had this little girlfriend that I don't know. That was another story. He had his wife and he had his girlfriend. You know, and then you had the big guy Rusty, who was like 600 pounds. He was I don't know what he did. He was the manager. And I'd walk into his room, and it would be pitch black, and I'd say, he'd say, hey, Michael, how'd you do? And Lori would be sitting there, his girlfriend, Cecil and Rusty. They'll be sitting in the dark.
In the dark.
In the dark. And I was like so naive, because remember, I just was a white collar guy. I was a businessman. So I didn't know this world. So I didn't know what was good about it. Turned out I was supporting all of their businesses all over the place from my one room that we had.
Wow.
He had like 10 rooms. My room was doing the best.
That is crazy.
And so I'd say, how are we doing? He'd say, yeah, pretty good. And and we were doing, it was all credit card business. So we got credit cards from people. Credit card numbers.
Yeah.
I don't want to give you all the secrets.
I know, right? Okay.
Because we were going to start this. It wasn't the cool, I don't want to, I don't want to say any further. But the bottom line is that what happened is that they said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to set up a room on Reseda Boulevard, off of Reseda Boulevard, and we're going to have 250 or 300 people. And he brought me over there. The place was huge. It looked like Carnegie Hall, and there was levels. And then I was going to be at the top level with somebody like fanning me with like grape leaves or something like that. and they were giving me a house up the street as my office.
God, okay.
And I says, wow, I like this. But the thing is that I was on an override when I was the sales manager. Mm-hmm. And so I was making so much. In fact, they had to split my checks. I was up to like $3,500 or $4,000. I remember I was getting 2 checks every week, $2,000 each check.
Wow.
And they said, we're going to put you on a salary and an override. And I said, what are you talking about? You want me to be in charge of this whole thing? It's a salary.
Yeah.
So they said, yeah, we're going to put you on 2,000. I remember it. And I should ask my girlfriend at the time. She actually became my wife. It was $2,000 and an override of like 2 or 3%. And I says, no, I think I want to stay on my thing was straight.
You were like, I want the numbers. I don't want that salary.
I never believed in salaries.
You do.
You know what?
That is
I believe
so smart. Yeah.
I never wanted a salary. Never wanted an hourly. I says, no, just give me the variable. Variable means fixed versus variable. Variable means it's a percentage. If you do the sales, you make the money. If you don't do the sales, you don't make the money. Mm-hmm. And they said no.
Oh, wow.
And you know what? That was my last job I ever had.
And then after that, you said, fuck this. I'm doing it myself, right?
I
love it.
And that's how it started.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for about 5 years, the phone room business. Mm-hmm. And so you could take Gar out of the phone room, but you can never take the phone room out of Gar.
Wow, that's so cool.
I just kind of simplified myself.
Yeah.
And then I got into a business in Toner, which was, I was kind of tired of everybody being paid on Friday on that business. On Monday, they'd be begging me for a loan. Mm-hmm. And so I got into this ink and toner. It was the very beginnings of it, laser toner cartridges. Mm-hmm. And back in the late 80s. And I said, back of a napkin, I said, this is going to be unbelievable. Yeah. This is so easy. You just punch a little hole in the plastic thing, you fill out some... And
was that before, like... Because I'm trying to think, when did personal computers really come out like that? That was more like the
personal
90s?
Computers came out around 1983.
Oh, okay.
The Apple Mac. This was in 1989. So it was right in the beginning.
Cool.
In fact, to give you an idea, there's something like 350 models of HP of laser printers now, and we were like working on the number 1 and 2 at the time.
Wow.
So it's really cool. And then you know what? Of mice and men, the best laid plans, as what's that guy's name? Steinbeck said, is that I had 2 little children. Mm-hmm. I ended up getting married to the beautiful woman, mm-hmm. and my bipolar came out.
Yeah.
So I was working my ass off. I was working 7 days a week. I've always worked 7 days a week, 20 hours a day. Sleep like 4 hours. And it was 1991, and I had 2 little children, and I thought that I was whatever. I don't want to say who I thought I was, but I thought I was like, and so I don't want to get into the, but so my wife wanted to send me to a mental institution.
Oh Oh no.
I was scraping the bottom of the...
So you were just like acting different one day. She's like, wait a minute, no.
I mean, no, she could take it. I was like,
Wow.
I wasn't sleeping. I would go to the office at 11 o'clock at night.
Because don't you think you felt a lot of pressure being
lot
in
of
charge
pressure.
of all those employees and everything?
Well, I got to tell you,
You know?
I'll get through that, but I'll tell you something about that they were stealing money from me before I can even go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not stealing money. It's the vendors and just everybody. When it gets to a point, it's tough. And the thing is, I had to deal with it because I had a whole family.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, it sounds like you also had, like I said, all that pressure on you because there was so many people involved. Did you have a lot of help with assistance? And could you feel like you trusted a lot of people? Because you know how they always say the more
I had
you
great
make, the more
people.
problems you got. Yeah, you had a good team
Not at that
around you.
point. Not at that point. That was wrong. But I had great people, and it reached. Are we getting time? Okay. It reached the. That was early on. It actually. I hit the bottom of the barrel.
Mm-hmm.
I was screaming at the bank every day at 11 o'clock, saying, "You got to pay these checks."
Mm-hmm.
So everybody, if you think the grass is always green, you see a guy who lives in Hidden Hills or in Beverly Hills, and he's got these huge homes and he's got these Maseratis. You know something? He probably doesn't have as my dad used to say, a pot to peel potatoes in. You know, they all come off. Everybody comes off. Everybody has the Joneses syndrome. Everybody has to look like they've got it all.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you something. You know, I have a number here, and this is true. The amount of money that I made represents I wrote it down somewhere. Here it is. 100th, I was in the top 100th of 1% in America.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Is that crazy?
Crazy. That's cool, though.
That's what
Obviously. Well, that's cool.
and you know something?
But were you happy, though?
No.
See.